If I told you to have a look at this table and tell me how many countries there are, you would probably guess one. I mean, it's all saying United Kingdom, right? Well, that's when I'll tell you you're wrong. Now, as confusing as it may seem, a parser will actually see this as 4 different countries. Now, it's obvious that a machine and a human will see data differently, but which is why it's so important that we handle data correctly. Which brings us to a gateway as to how JP Morgan lost over $6 billion. Yes, B, that's a billion. And it was all because of an Excel-based risk model that contained improper data handling and calculation errors. So can a simple spreadsheet actually cost a bank billions of dollars? Well, large banks hold enormous portfolios with hundreds of billion dollars, and they all ask, how much money could we lose tomorrow if the markets move against us? To calculate that, banks normally have something called value at risk, which just uses historical data and models to estimate potential losses. So a typical VAR model may look like this, where you have a trading system, data is automatically extracted, validated, risk is calculated before being fed into the report. But in JP Morgan, we had a few additional steps, and there's 2 key steps here which might ring alarm bells. Yeah, I mean, it's quite obvious, right? You have copy and paste and a manual formula step. Now, this is an oversimplification of what actually happened, but you can kind of see where this is going. So let's take a simple example. You have a table with thousands of records, millions of records, and let's say they all add up to the portfolio of a book. Now, really simply, if you were to miss or have null values for some of the records, then you're losing value in the portfolio. Then we have the manual formula. So the Senate's investigation found, quote, following that decision, further errors were discovered in the model, including, most significantly, an operational error in the calculation of the relative changes in hazard rates and correlation estimates. Specifically, after subtracting the old rate from the new rate, the spreadsheet divided by their sum instead of their average as the modeler had intended. So why is this so important? Let's look into an example. So let's say we're trying to find the relative change of a new and old value, and it goes from 110 to 100. Now, using the average, we'd find a relative change of 9.5%, but let's say we did what the model did and used the sum. You can see we've halved the relative change. So the model is saying we're not that risky, but actually it's double the risk. So everything's burning, but you don't even know it's burning because your model is saying, no, it's fine. So it just really emphasizes how important it is that you manage your data correctly. So before data is used to make important decisions, it needs to be trusted. So let's go back to the original table. So for these 4 countries, we actually want to standardize them and make them all the same. So we have UK. Same thing for if we had dates. We want to standardize them to a single format. Now, it is not all about standardizing, transforming, and whatnot. A lot of it actually comes down to validating the data. So that's a very important part in the workflow. So validating can be very simple things like checking if there's required columns, checking if there's missing values, checking if prices are negative, or if there are any duplicate IDs. And these simple checks can be very, very powerful to maintaining the data in your platform. So let's take the table example from before. On top of nulls, you might also have data types that are incorrect or out of the schema. So to handle null values, you might do something quite common like dropping the null value. You might actually look to fill the null value with a value like 0, or you might look to forward fill the value. You also have the schema and the data types. So you might be doing things like casting it, and then there's like pricing data. So you might move that to a float. And then you also have things like timestamps and date times that you want to format. So that's why it's important to have these data quality checks and validations so that when there is a fire, you can put it out as soon as you can. Especially in today's age with agentic programming, where an agent can just destroy a platform in a single prompt or whatnot. But anyways, well, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something. And if you did, well, subscribe down below and hit the like button.